can't trust doctors either. They're all mixed up. You
really
kidding?
think so, huh?
My proctologist used to be a photographer.
Yeah.
Hey, he took x-rays, told me to bend over and say cheese.
I have a romance with him when I'm doing my show. We have hit it off pretty good.
Rodney Dangerfield made millions laugh with his no-respect jokes. But behind the spotlight, his real life was much darker than people ever imagined. From a hollow childhood to a chaotic marriage and a secret habit that lasted decades, his private world was a non-stop fight to survive. Join us as we uncover his tragic journey. Rodney Dangerfield spent his whole career joking that he got no respect. But growing up in Babylon, New York, that wasn't just comedy, it was his truth. Born Jacob Cohen, the future Rodney was raised in a home with almost no emotional support, and those early wounds cut deep. The first huge void in his life was his father, Philip, a vaudeville performer using the stage name Phil Roy. He was always on the road chasing shows and almost never home. Rodney grew up without a steady father figure, and that left scars that stayed with him for years. Even worse, his first view of show business wasn't glamorous at all. He saw it as the thing that tore families apart. To young Rodney, entertainment didn't look exciting. It looked like the reason his father disappeared.
This girl was fat and ugly. Ooh, was she ugly?
Ugly?
How ugly? I took her to the beach. They asked me what I used for bait.
There was no warmth connected to that world, only absence and heartbreak. And while his father was gone, life at home brought little comfort. His mother was there physically, but emotionally, she felt far away. Rodney described her as cold, distant, even harsh. She held back the simple love every child needs. No gifts on birthdays, no cards, no hugs, no words to lift him up. Rodney once shared a painful memory of saving money for a football uniform, only for his mother to take it from him. That kind of betrayal from a parent can shake a kid to the core and plant deep feelings of not being valued. Rodney and his sister watched their family break apart, piece by piece. When his father cut off contact for good, their mother moved them to Queens, and life only felt more fractured. In that tiny, broken household, loneliness filled the space. Silence became normal. Emotional distance became routine. For Rodney, home felt less like comfort and more like a pressure cooker ready to explode. But by 15, he found a way to survive comedy. While other kids were out playing, Rodney was writing jokes, turning pain into protection. Humor became his shield. Every punchline helped him hide hurt behind laughter. It was street-smart survival before he even knew it. By making people laugh, he found a way to keep his own heartbreak at a distance. That early escape through comedy built the wall around his heart, brick by brick. And soon, that wounded kid chasing laughs would become Jack Roy, walking away from the stage for a very different life, selling aluminum siding and driving trucks while carrying those scars everywhere he went. The Jack Roy years. After graduating high school in 1939, Rodney Dangerfield wanted a total reset. At just 19, he legally changed his name to Jack Roy, trying to leave behind the pain of his old life and chase something bigger in show business. It sounded bold, but the road ahead was rough from the start. His early years were far from glamorous. Jack worked as a singing waiter, serving food while trying to entertain crowds with songs and jokes. It was a hard grind, not the kind of life people picture when they think of comedy fame. He was hustling every day, trying to be noticed in an industry packed with dreamers just like him. Back then, he wasn't the no-respect legend people would come to know. He was just another young comic fighting for a shot.
I mean, as a kid, my house was always crowded, always people around, you know? I come from a big old-fashioned, hard-working, stupid family. That's what I come from. I tell you, when I was a kid, nobody liked my family, you know? They always wanted to get rid of us. I remember one time my family went on a picnic in the woods. The animals started a forest fire. Now, with me, nothing comes easy. My wife, she don't help either, you know? Every time I take a few drinks, she hides the bottle. Oh, I admit I'm a bad drinker. I'm not nasty or nothing. But I'll tell you, when I drink the next day, I gotta do two things. I gotta try and locate my car, and I gotta bring back the car I took. I'm a bad.
And finding his voice didn't come easy. The laughs weren't automatic. The success wasn't coming. For years, it felt like he was chasing something always just out of reach. By 1949, Jack Roy hit a breaking point. After years of trying to make it on stage, he still wasn't earning enough to survive, and the struggle was wearing him down. Feeling defeated, he made a shocking move. He walked away from show business completely. The lights, the stage, the dream, he left it all behind. This was what many call his great departure. Instead of chasing applause, he turned to ordinary work and built a completely different life. For years, he drove trucks and sold aluminum siding, grinding through jobs that had nothing to do with comedy, but this chapter revealed something a lot of people never expected. Jack Roy was a beast in sales. While some think comics are chaotic or disorganized, Jack was disciplined, sharp, and relentless. He didn't just sell siding, he dominated. He became one of the top salesmen in the field, proving he could outwork almost anyone. That hustle was real. He wasn't running from hard work, he was built for it. This part of his life showed he would do whatever it took to succeed, even when he wasn't doing what he loved. But while he was building this working man life, another quiet pattern was taking shape behind the scenes. Back in 1942, Jack Roy started a habit that would stay with him for the next 60 years: cannabis. It quickly became part of his daily routine, almost every single day. For him, it wasn't some passing phase, it became a fixture in his life. He believed it helped him manage stress and the heavy moods that had followed him since childhood. That secret habit stayed in the background while his life kept moving through struggle, reinvention, and the next wild chapter ahead. Because soon, Jack Roy would enter a relationship filled with twists, heartbreak, and second chances. The woman he married, divorced, and then married all over again. Joyce Indig. When Jack Roy decided to quit comedy in 1949, it wasn't only because he was struggling, it was because someone had changed his whole direction. Her name was Joyce Indig, and she shook up his priorities in a big way. Joyce was a singer herself, so she understood the entertainment world, but together they made a dramatic choice to walk away from show business and chase the so-called normal dream. They moved to New Jersey looking for that picket fence life, hoping regular jobs and suburban calm would bring the stability both of them had missed growing up.
No, but I've been working hard, Johnny, and I'm trying to relax. You know, I go to Las Vegas next week, the resorts after that. I got an album coming out, a movie coming out. I'm working very hard.
Yeah.
Well, you know, my father, he was a workaholic.
Really?
Oh, yeah. You mentioned work, he got drunk.
I didn't know that.
Well, I finally solved my drinking problem. I joined Alcoholics Anonymous, you know. Yeah, I still drink. I use a different name, that's all.
It sounded like a fresh start. But behind closed doors, things were far from peaceful. The dream they chased started showing cracks almost right away. They first married in 1949, but the marriage was loaded with tension. On the outside, it may have looked quiet and ordinary, but inside the home, conflict was building. Their relationship turned into a wild cycle that almost seemed impossible to escape. They stayed together 13 years before divorcing in 1962. But then came a twist. Just 1 year later in 1963, they married each other again. It was like they couldn't live together, but couldn't stay apart either. That second shot at marriage lasted another 7 years before ending in a final divorce in 1970. And through those years, home became a battleground. Arguments were constant, resentment kept growing, and the peaceful life they wanted started to feel more like a trap than a dream. Rodney later admitted these were some of the hardest years he ever faced, and suddenly those sharp jokes about marriage and home life start making a lot more sense. Those famous punchlines weren't just comedy bits, they came from real frustration, real bitterness, real pain. He was pulling straight from his own life and turning it into material that hit hard. While living in New Jersey, jokes became his pressure valve. Humor was how he talked about unhappiness without saying it outright. Every one-liner carried pieces of what he was living through. That's where the edge in his comedy got sharper, more personal, more unforgettable. Together they had 2 children, a son, Brian, and a daughter, Melanie. And even with all the chaos surrounding the marriage, Rodney took fatherhood seriously. After Joyce later passed away, he took on full responsibility for the children. That brought a whole new challenge, balancing a growing career while raising 2 kids on his own. As a single father, he was juggling pressure from every direction. He wanted his children to have more stability than he ever had. Even while fighting his own inner struggles, that side of Rodney often got overlooked, but it was real, the comic carrying heartbreak while trying to hold a family together.
Get those hands up.
Hey, Bob, give me a break, will you? I mean, I'm tired.
You can put one arm down.
Which one?
The one nearest your wallet.
And what makes this chapter even more powerful is how all that tension didn't destroy his creativity. It sharpened it. The frustration, the arguments, the emotional chaos, he turned all of it into a genius comedy weapon. Because next came the breakthrough that changed everything, crafting the razor-sharp one-liner style that made the world laugh. When Rodney Dangerfield returned to comedy in his 40s, he didn't just tell jokes, he engineered them like a mastermind. Every line was treated like a puzzle that had to be cracked. He wasn't winging it on stage, he was obsessing over every word, every pause, every beat until it hit just right. His process was built on one simple but relentless habit. He always carried a pen and scraps of paper in his pocket no matter where he was. At dinner, in a taxi, walking through a grocery store, if something funny hit his mind, he wrote it down instantly. He didn't trust memory, he trusted the grind. And once a joke hit paper, the real work started. Rodney would spend weeks, sometimes even months, sharpening one single joke. He'd change one word, move a pause, trim a sentence, and keep cutting until the line hit like a punch. He believed the fewer words a joke used, the harder people laughed, and he treated that like law. That perfectionism touched everything he did. He didn't just chase laughs, he studied what people were ready to laugh at. In the late 1990s, when Viagra became a hot new topic, Rodney wanted jokes about it, but he refused to rush it. He didn't want a joke flying over people's heads, so he did something wild. He studied the trend first. He tracked internet buzz and read up on how familiar people were with the topic. He wanted to know audiences would instantly get the reference before he ever used it on stage. That's how calculated he was, and once he felt the public was ready, he wrote the joke and rushed to book The Tonight Show. Why the urgency? Because Rodney was worried another comic might land a similar joke first. He wanted to hit before anyone else and make sure it was unmistakably original. That wasn't paranoia, that was comic survival. He knew timing could make or break a killer bit, and then there was his stage presence. Unforgettable and full of nervous chaos. The red tie tugging, the sweat, the bug-eyed stare, all of it looked like performance, but much of it came from real tension. Rodney was naturally anxious, even after becoming a superstar. Every time he walked on stage, pressure was still there. That fidgeting wasn't random, it was energy pouring out.
Now, you kid, I know my wife cheats on me. Every time I come home, the parrot says, "Quick, out the window," you know? I mean, my house, I can't relax. Really? I got a dog, he drives me nuts. I got a dumb dog, you know? We call him Egypt. Every room, he leaves a pyramid. My kids, they don't help either.
No good, huh?
No, my kids, they're real smart kids I got, you know.
Yeah.
But the other day I told my kid, I said, "Someday you'll have children of your own." He said, "So will you."
Tugging his tie and moving around gave his character life. When he said he got no respect, he didn't just tell you, he looked like a man worn down by life itself. That made those one-liners feel even sharper, even more real. And that's what made Rodney special, not just the jokes, but the machine behind them. He could produce an unbelievable amount of material without losing quality, and that's rare. Most people can do volume or brilliance. Rodney somehow did both, joke after joke, line after line. He kept delivering with precision, pressure, and genius packed into every punchline. Many comedians lean on the same good material for years. But Rodney was different. He was always writing, always pushing, always sharpening. He had thousands of jokes, but what's wild is how polished they were. Quantity never killed quality with Rodney. Every line had to hit. He would slip into small comedy clubs late at night just to test one brand new joke. Imagine that. A star still grinding in little rooms over one single line, and if the crowd didn't laugh hard enough, he wouldn't shrug it off. He'd go home, change a word, shift the rhythm, tighten the punch, then come back the next night and test it again. That level of obsession was serious. He never stopped working because comedy wasn't just a career to him, it was a craft he lived for. Making people laugh wasn't a hustle, it was in his bones, and that passion led to one of his boldest moves yet. Building a place that would change stand-up forever. By 1969, Rodney Dangerfield was finally becoming a household name, but he was tired of bouncing from other people's venues. So he made a risky move and created his own home base. Teaming up with a friend, he opened a New York City club with a simple name that would become legendary, Dangerfields. But this wasn't just another comedy spot. Rodney designed it as a true institution for stand-up. He wanted a place where the focus stayed on the comic and the jokes, not distractions, not gimmicks.
Friend Dr. Vinny Boombatz.
Vinny Boombatz, how is it?
He's okay, he's fine.
How is the good doctor?
He's not mixed up at all. He knows what he's doing every minute. He's busy writing.
Is he doing some new book, is he?
Oh, a new book just came out, a big book, Johnny. Love story.
Love story?
All about a girl who had a wild romance with an architect.
What's it called?
The book is entitled She Fell in Love with His High-Rise.
Because he owned the club, he controlled the atmosphere, and he built something that felt both intimate and electric. Very quickly, Dangerfields became one of the most famous comedy clubs in the world. But it was more than a venue. It became a laboratory for comedy. In the 1970s and 1980s, while HBO was exploding as a force in entertainment, Rodney used the club as a launchpad for legendary comedy specials. And those specials were huge. They didn't just boost his no-respect image, they helped change how people watch stand-up at home. The room had such raw energy that it exploded through television screens. Suddenly, millions could experience Rodney's act without stepping foot in Manhattan, and his fame shot even higher. But one of Rodney's most underrated qualities was what some called his kingmaker streak. After decades of struggling to be seen, he could have turned bitter. Instead, he opened doors for younger comics. He genuinely loved helping talent rise, no strings attached, and that says a lot. He used his club and TV specials to spotlight comics with offbeat, edgy, and different styles, performers many mainstream places wouldn't touch. Rodney saw something in them before others did. He wasn't just protecting his own spotlight, he was passing it around. And look at the names tied to that. Jim Carrey, Sam Kinison, Tim Allen. Rodney played a major role in giving those future stars real opportunities when others looked the other way. He had an eye for talent that was scary good, and he often gave newcomers a stage when nobody else would. That's what made Dangerfield's bigger than a comedy club. It became a proving ground, a launch pad, almost a legend of its own. Rodney wasn't just building his own empire, he was helping shape the future of comedy, one wild new voice at a time. Rodney believed if someone was funny, they deserved a shot, simple as that. He never lost respect for the craft itself. Even after becoming wealthy enough to walk away and live easy, he refused to retire. He didn't keep going for money. He kept going because performing was in his blood. Even when he wasn't on stage at his own club, he was still working harder than almost anyone in the room.
I don't like classy restaurants.
You don't like classy
I
restaurants?
like to eat home.
Home.
Home, I don't have to worry about a tie and a jacket, nothing. You know, you want something else, no big production with waiters. You open a refrigerator, I see what's around.
Right.
If I got a refrigerator at home, I can't figure. It's very deceiving.
Ah.
My refrigerator, it's always full. There's nothing to eat. We got things in our refrigerator like a half a bottle of flat soda, a cup with a broken egg in it. This broken egg has been laying there for 4 months, just waiting for someone to scramble it. We have one bottle of ketchup that we use. Then we have another bottle of ketchup. It's almost empty. It's been there now for a year and a half. And there's one thing more in our refrigerator. A big pot takes up a whole shelf. And the only thing that's in this big pot is a half a boiled potato.
Just sit.
While others relaxed, Rodney was in the back writing, tweaking material, or helping younger comics sharpen their timing. He stayed active in comedy deep into his 80s, proving his hunger to make people laugh was stronger than any desire for a quiet life. And then, after years of chaos in love, something unexpected happened. A surprise meeting that changed everything. Because after all the noise and conflict of his first marriage, Rodney found a very different kind of peace in 1983. It started in the most unlikely place, a flower shop in Santa Monica called Childs of London. No stage lights, no cameras, no comedy bit. He was just a customer. But inside that shop was Joan Child, a flower importer 30 years younger than Rodney, and from the start something clicked. Rodney was immediately drawn to her, but this wasn't some passing crush. He kept finding reasons to return to the shop, and little by little, a real relationship grew. What started as chance turned into the most stable bond of his life, and in a twist few saw coming, that connection would last for the rest of his days. They married in 1993, a full decade after first meeting, and Joan brought something Rodney had rarely known: stability. After a life shaped by emotional chaos and complicated relationships, she became a calming force. That was huge for a man who had spent so many years battling inner tension. Joan was very different from the people Rodney had known before. She was a Mormon and a teetotaler. She didn't drink at all. While Rodney still had his own habits, including his long-running cannabis use, Joan offered a steady home life that balanced his restless energy. She didn't try to remake him, and that may be what made it work. Her quiet, organized way of living helped ground his anxious personality. For the first time, Rodney had a partner deeply focused on his well-being and even the health of his business. It wasn't just romance, it was support on every level. And then came one of the most surprising parts of their partnership. Joan pushed Rodney toward the future. In 1995, long before most celebrities understood what the internet even could be, Joan helped Rodney launch his own official website. That was a massive move at the time. Think about how ahead of the curve that was. While many stars were ignoring the digital world, Rodney was stepping into it early, and Joan helped make it happen. She wasn't just bringing peace into his personal life, she was helping shape his next chapter in a whole new era. For a man whose life had been filled with turbulence, Joan brought something close to balance. And that may have been one of the biggest turning points he ever had. But even with new peace and success, Rodney was still carrying battles most people never saw coming. It made Rodney one of the first major celebrities with
I'll tell you my trouble. I got the wrong doctor. You know my doctor, Dr. Vinny Boombats. You know my doctor? What a doctor. You kidding? What a doctor. I called him up. I told him I had diarrhea. He put me on hold.
a personal home on the web, and that was revolutionary. Long before stars were building online brands, Rodney was already there. Joan saw the future coming and understood Rodney could speak directly to fans without any middleman in the way. She helped manage his online presence and made sure his jokes reached a whole new generation just discovering computers and the internet. That was a huge shift. Rodney wasn't just keeping up, he was moving ahead of the pack, and Joan played a major role in that. Their relationship was so unique it even sparked creative ideas in Rodney's work. In 2000, he starred in My 5 Wives, and the idea for that movie came partly from his fascination with Joan's background and the different cultures they came from. Even though the film had a wild comedy plot about a man ending up with 5 wives, there was something personal under the laughs. At the heart of it was the bond he shared with Joan, and the many conversations they had about her life, her family, and their differences. Rodney loved weaving pieces of real life into comedy, and life with Joan gave him fresh material and fresh energy. She didn't just bring him happiness, she inspired him creatively too. But even with all that joy, a darker struggle was still living under the surface. Rodney carried a sadness he kept hidden from the world for years. Because while people saw the comic genius making everyone laugh, inside, another battle was raging. This is where the fight between the man and the persona gets intense. Rodney Dangerfield had a complicated relationship with the character he created, what many call the persona trap, and it ran deep. Watch old Tonight Show clips and you notice something strange. He almost never dropped the act. Even sitting on the couch talking with the host, he stayed in character. The tie pulling, the sweating, the nervous glances, it all kept going as if the performance never ended. He carried that act into almost every public appearance because he was so committed to being Rodney, and maybe even trapped inside him. The public rarely saw Jack Roy, the man underneath. He seemed to believe if he stopped being funny even for a second, people might stop caring. That constant need to perform came from somewhere painful. For Rodney, show business wasn't just a career, it was survival. Because of the emotional coldness he felt growing up, laughter from strangers became something much bigger than applause. When crowds laughed and cheered, it filled a hole he had carried since childhood. For him, that roar from the audience could feel like a substitute for the maternal love he missed. That is heavy, and it helps explain why the stage meant everything to him. He needed those laughs to feel worth something. If people loved Rodney Dangerfield, then maybe, in some deeper way, Jack Roy could believe he was lovable too. And that makes the comedy hit differently when you think about it. What's even more startling, Rodney believed a lot of what he said on stage. He wasn't only playing a guy who got no respect, part of him truly felt it. The loser character wasn't just an act. It came from wounds he carried for decades. And that blurred line between performance and pain made his story far more tragic than most people realized. Despite the fame, the hit movies, and the successful business empire, Rodney still often felt like that unloved boy from New York, and that's a big reason the no-respect character felt so real to people. He wasn't just delivering jokes, he was revealing how he often saw himself. In his own mind, he felt like a loser, so playing one on stage came naturally. That's what made the act so powerful but also so painful. Because over time it created a strange split between the man and the character. Rodney would sometimes get offended when people treated him like the joke in real life.
My doctor, he don't help either. He told me to run 5 miles a day for 2 weeks. I called him up. I said, Doc, I'm 70 miles from my house. I'll tell you my trouble. I got the wrong doctor. You know my doctor, Dr. Vinny Boombach. Know my doctor? What a doctor. Oh, I called him last week. I told him, Doc, I swallowed a bottle of sleeping pills. He told me to have a few drinks and get some rest.
He wanted respect as a serious man, a sharp businessman, not just the guy tugging his tie, yelling about getting no respect. But here was the trap. He almost never showed people the real Jack Roy. So how could the public separate the man from the persona? They couldn't, and that tension stayed with him. He wanted to be seen as a real person, but he was often too guarded to fully take off the mask of the performer. While wrestling with identity, he was also fighting something even heavier, a private physical and mental battle that cast a long shadow over his life. Because behind the laughs was a struggle many never saw coming, depression, and a habit that lasted 60 years. For most of his life, Rodney was a master at hiding his true feelings. Behind the loud suits and famous punchlines was a man battling severe depression. And this wasn't something that showed up late in life. This struggle began when he was just 15 years old. Think about that. Even while making millions laugh, he carried deep sadness almost every day. The world saw a comedy giant, but inside, he was fighting dark thoughts most people never knew about. For more than 50 years, he barely spoke publicly about it. It wasn't until his autobiography in the 1990s that he finally opened up about how much he'd been suffering for decades. That shocked people, because behind the funny man image was someone dealing with serious pain inside his own mind. And to cope with that pain, Rodney turned to cannabis. He started using it in 1942, and that habit stayed with him for 6 decades. For him, it wasn't casual, it became deeply woven into his life. It sat in a complicated space between coping mechanism and dependency. What makes this even more layered is that Rodney also sought therapy. He spoke openly about counseling helping him with depression, and he gave it real credit. But even with professional support, he refused to give up cannabis. Even when doctors suggested it might be contributing to other problems.
Know my doctor, Dr. Vinny Boombach. Know my doctor. What a doctor. He's really mixed up. He grabbed my knee and told me to cough and hit me in the balls with a hammer.
He felt he couldn't let it go. Therapy helped him talk through emotions, but cannabis seemed tied to how he managed physical tension and stress. It was two very different ways of coping, running side by side. And that habit caused serious complications, especially in hospitals. Rodney was so dependent on it that he reportedly insisted on smoking even while a patient in medical settings. That shows how deep it ran. This wasn't some side detail in his life. It was part of a much bigger struggle he carried while the world only saw the punchlines. That dependence led to hospital incidents where Rodney reportedly clashed with staff and even faced legal trouble. Hospitals have strict no smoking rules for serious reasons, oxygen equipment, patient safety, all of it. But Rodney felt he couldn't function without cannabis, and that shows how tightly he held on to it. He was willing to risk embarrassment and friction just to keep using what he believed kept him steady. And that came from what could be called an anxiety anchor. While therapy helped him understand his depression, he also battled intense physical anxiety that seemed to live in his body non-stop. Rodney believed cannabis lowered that constant nervous tension, what felt to him like a permanent anxiety floor. Without it, he feared his heart would race and his thoughts would spiral. To him, it wasn't about getting high for fun. It was a tool he believed he needed just to feel calm enough to function and even speak to people. And through all of that stress, one person stayed beside him, Joan, which makes what happened in his final months even more emotional. Because by 2004, Rodney's lively world began growing very quiet. After undergoing heart valve replacement surgery in August, things did not go the way anyone hoped. Instead of recovering smoothly, his health began a steady decline, and what followed was heartbreaking. Rodney suffered a series of small strokes, adding more complications to an already fragile situation. He also developed serious infections his weakened body struggled to fight. Much of this time was spent in a coma at UCLA Medical Center, while Joan Child stayed by his side every single day. And during those painful days came a moment people would later call the coma kiss, a story that stunned many. Even though Rodney was unresponsive for long stretches, Joan shared there was one brief, almost miraculous moment
When I was born, after the doctor cut the cord, he hung himself.
when he seemed to return. According to Joan, he came out of the coma long enough to look at her, squeeze her hand, and kiss her. Just imagine that moment. Small, quiet, but incredibly powerful. It felt like a final goodbye wrapped in love. Even in those last days, that bond with Joan was still there, and that moment carried enormous emotional weight because soon after, he slipped back into unconsciousness. It was as if he surfaced one last time just to reach her. Then, on October 5th, 2004, Rodney Dangerfield passed away peacefully at 82, and with that, one of comedy's most unforgettable voices went silent. The mood at the medical center was heavy as family gathered for final farewells. Joan, his children, all facing the end of a long, turbulent journey. For Joan and his family, this wasn't just the loss of a star, it was the loss of the man behind the legend. The wounded kid, the comic genius, the husband, the father, all of it came to rest in that moment. And after a life full of noise, laughter, struggle, and survival, Rodney's final chapter closed in heartbreaking silence. Rodney was as complicated as he was funny, and when news of his death spread, it sent shockwaves through the comedy world. It felt like a giant piece of stand-up history was suddenly gone. Comics, fans, and friends all felt the loss of a man who had turned pain into punchlines for decades. And after he passed, one deeply unusual detail emerged about how Joan chose to remember him. Rodney was famous for working so hard, he'd sweat through his suits during those frantic, high-energy performances. And Joan actually kept a small bottle of Rodney's sweat in the refrigerator. It may sound strange at first, but to Joan it wasn't bizarre, it was personal. It was a physical reminder of the blood, sweat, and tears Rodney poured into a career he fought to build. A raw symbol of the effort he gave to finally earn the respect he spent a lifetime joking he never got. And fittingly, even near the end, Rodney never wanted to stop performing. His final years were marked by health scares, but also a stubborn refusal to leave the stage.
I tell you, folks, with me, nothing comes easy. You know, I can't lose any weight. I tried jogging. I keep running into restaurants.
Even when his body was warning him to slow down, he kept pushing forward. On November 22nd, 2001, Rodney was scheduled to perform on The Tonight Show with Jay Leno, and the date made it even more special. It was his birthday. But what should have been a celebration turned frightening when he suffered a heart attack. For fans and family, it was a shocking moment. The man who made everyone laugh was suddenly fighting for his life. But giving up was never Rodney's style. After recovering, he did something classic Rodney. He came back. Exactly 1 year later, he returned to The Tonight Show in what he called his triumphant return. He wanted to prove he still had the timing, the fire, and the edge to own a stage no matter his age. And for one night, it felt like he beat the odds again. It was defiance in its purest form. Rodney against time, and Rodney still swinging. But sadly, his health kept declining. In August 2004, he underwent heart valve surgery, and doctors hoped it would buy him more time. But complications piled up, small strokes, infections, one setback after another. His body, which had pushed so hard for 82 years, was finally wearing down. He slipped into a coma and passed away on October 5, 2004. And with that, the final curtain closed on one of comedy's true originals. But what makes his story hit even harder is what he said about regret. For a man whose stage character complained about everything, Rodney actually looked at his career with gratitude. His one major regret wasn't failure, it was that success came too late. He felt he lost too many years selling siding and driving trucks when he could have been on stage making people laugh. Think about that. His regret wasn't wanting more money or more fame, it was wanting more time to perform, more nights in front of a crowd, more laughter, more connection. To Rodney, that laughter was the greatest respect he ever received. And maybe that's the perfect way to understand his legacy. Beneath the no respect jokes was a man who lived for laughter, fought through pain, lifted other comics up, and turned personal wounds into timeless comedy. That's why Rodney Dangerfield still matters. His story wasn't just about jokes, it was about resilience, about reinvention, about proving it's never too late to become who you were meant to be. If you enjoyed this video and learned something new about Rodney's unbelievable life, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share this with someone who loves classic comedy. And drop a comment below, what's your favorite Rodney Dangerfield one-liner? Or what part of his story surprised you most?